I asked you about that last point that Scott was talking about because we didn't get a chance to talk about it too much last night, about sort of setting that record for conference wins and what that says about your team and sort of what that means for you.
You know, Joe, I really don't get, I mean, for me, it's more about the kids. And I think just, I don't know, it's a legacy that our seniors, and I know I come back to that quite a bit, but I think it's a legacy that our kids will have forever. And it's something that they can be proud of. And they were aware of it. You know, I think we haven't really talked about, championships, wins, and things like that. But we did talk about using Loyola as an opportunity to staple your place in history. And I think that team right there, it's something that when they leave here, they're going to have on that they can brag about. And I think that's something that's really important. And I think it was really important for us to finish the season off the right way.
When now headed into the postseason for you, as far as how you approach what's going to go on between the 8-9 game and sort of how you have to set and prepare for your game on Monday, how much does that game impact on what you guys are preparing for on Monday?
Well, right now it won't impact because I think if you're preparing for two teams, I mean, I think it's you're losing time in this time of the year. I think it's really, really important how efficient you are with practice. You know, because some kids are still banged up. It's a long season, so one of the things that we want to be able to do is make sure they're fresh, and I think we've done a really good job of that. I think we also have been layering things. I mean, we've been in a good place. You know, we felt like we could win this thing, so we've been layering things down the road for potential opponents throughout the year, and it's not. So if we're preparing for American, we've been able to spend 5 or 10 minutes layering things for the next opponent and maybe even 2 to 3 opponents down the road. And we actually had a couple things we had put in against Army and we got 9 points out of it. So I think those are things that we're really focused on that potential opponents, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It may be, it's interesting to me when we talk about the team because obviously we talk a lot about you and I over this season. But when you talk to somebody from the outside, how do you describe this team? If you had a way to sort of somebody from the outside who hasn't been watching guys play this season, how would you describe this team?
Connected and full of joy. I think from day one they've been connected. I think from the bottom of the bench all the way to the top. And of course, I mean, anytime you've got a basketball team, people are competitive and they would want more minutes and things like that. But I think it's been a very selfless crew. They have bought into what we've been talking about, that the most together team wins the Patriot League. It's not always the most talented. So I think it's a very connected group, and we have a lot of fun. Like practice is fun. Like you come in there and a lot of that's, Kelly Giuliani and, Lizzie Holders, those type of people that bring so much energy whenever we have practice.
Thanks, Coach.
Scott Wyckoff, WBAL Radio.
Hey, Coach, why do you think this team's been able to improve incrementally each season as they've gone over the last four?
Players. I mean, I'm being serious. I mean, it comes down to we've done a really, really good job of recruiting. I mean, we can sit here and talk about it. I mean, we spend a tremendous amount of time, myself included, Marlena Tremba, Casey Mack, I mean, Mac and Faith and Daniel and Sam have come in and hit the ground running too. And I think one of the biggest things is that we've recruited um, some really incredible young ladies, not just basketball players, and some incredible families. And then we've recruited some kids that really want to be really good at basketball, so they get in the gym and they work. And I think a lot of it too, I think our player development, if you've watched our kids over the 3 years, even our seniors, Kate Sampson to Morgan Demos, they get better, I shout out to the men like Aiden Kehoe. Look what he's done. And I think we've been able to develop these kids. And I think great players and player development and gym rats. As long as I don't screw it up, it's pretty good.
And how helpful has it been having Marlena and Mac there for this entire 4 year stretch with a common message along with you to have them there for their women?
Yeah, I get a little bit emotional about it. Quite honestly, Scott, in the fact that I think the most important thing you can do is who you hire and who you work with. I think Tony Bennett said long time ago when he and I were talking, and he said it out loud. You better be able to lose with these people before you can win with them. And I think, the other day, give you a prime example. My wife, there was a situation that came up and something I didn't agree with, and fussing with my wife about it, and then Marlena called and we were talking, and literally Marlena said my wife started laughing. She said verbatim, exactly word for word. She's like, "You guys have been together too long," and but no, I think being able to have people that you can trust is the most important thing. I know that this entire staff right here has the best interests of our kids. Mac and I go way back. I coached him in high school. He was a former Navy SEAL, so he has some input into it. There's a lot of things that these coaches do that go unnoticed, not just on a basketball day to day, but Mac's been in the water with them, and Mars always in the gym. So I think having that type of commitment from your assistants, and an emotional connection makes it very sweet.
How special has this last month been for Zoe as she's developed over the season, coming into February, setting up now for the postseason?
You know what? I don't. She's such a competitor that she just keeps playing. And then we at Colgate, she goes 1 for 11, and she's all bent out of shape about it. I said, "Baby, I'm glad you had that because we need to get that out of the way because you're going to have it." And then last night she goes 8 for 12. She makes everything. So I'm glad she got it out of the way. But once again, she's a gamer. You go back and look at the Florida game, the South Florida game, the Army games, Loyola when we needed a big basket. I mean, this kid's just a big time player, and I call her Big Game Zoe. And I think a lot of that's because she gets in the gym and she works. And I think she's deserved it.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nolan.
Coach, this season you won every single Patriot League home game by 10 or more points. How are you not just beating these teams, but punishing them and putting them away early?
Well, I just think our preparation. Now we did lose one at home. We haven't, so we'll go. Our first home game we lost there. Since then, we've been pretty good at home. I just think some of our preparation. I think our kids buy into what we're doing, and I think we come out. And honestly, I know this is going to. I think our first quarter and our third quarter have been really good, and I got to give hats off to our nutritionists and even Jess Muller, our sports psychologist, has kind of worked with us about how to transition from halftime onto the court in the third quarter. Because our third quarters hadn't been good, Tim, in years past. So we really try to attack that, and we had a plan. And it seems like if you go back and look at it, other than one or two games, we've had some really good third quarters. But I think it's just our kids they're prepared, they're ready to play, they're excited to play with each other, and I think I think that's part of it. And we have talent. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're very talented.
Zanai 2 games ago, the 31 points, her career high. How much more room is there for her between what she's doing right now and her ceiling as a college basketball player?
I think there's a lot more because she and I've talked about it. I think there's some things that we've got to be able to get her to do. I think she plays too fast at times. I think she's got to learn how to let the game come to her a little more, and in the fact of changing speeds. And we told her in the offseason we got to there's a couple moves that I want to have her add to her game, which I think will make her way, way more efficient. Probably not any more shots than what she's gonna get, but it would also open up some other things. But I was talking with Addie Messier at Lehigh, and she was just talking about how much she's grown as a player. But I think there's definitely more room. I think ball handling can be better. I think changing speeds can be better, and then a little more. She needs to be more aggressive with the 3-point shots. So I think the ceiling is even higher for her.
Always go, Tim. I asked Juliana what's enabled this turnaround for the program. She said she added a little Jersey spice to the mix, her and Christine and others from New Jersey. But seriously, how is the sophomore class and the freshman class? They've just brought a different flair to this program, and it seems like the wins have quickly followed.
Yeah, we've got a running joke around here that we've had a Jersey kid every year. We thought that was going to be broken for the coming year, but then we ended up with another Jersey kid, and then we had a commitment. So that Jersey connection is going to be running for the next couple years. No, I just think they bring a love for the game. Like they love to compete. They love to and it is a little bit of a Jersey flair. I'm not gonna, like Christina Liggio, they come from the shore area up in there, and it's something different. And you look at last night, I think our freshmen had over 40 some points in that game. So I think you just can, really, really good players, really, really good people, and really, really good families attract other people. And then you throw in the fact that we have the best opportunity in the country. That if you can do it, I feel like Navy is the best opportunity in the country for our young ladies. So. But I think they just have a love for the game, Tim, and I think that permeates our program and it's lifted it up.
Thank you.
Wags. Well, I would also say that Navy's had a long time Virginia connection as well. There's always been a Virginia resident on the roster, and I think that'll continue based on your roots, don't you think, Tim?
Yeah, unfortunately, right now, next year we won't have a Virginia kid.
You kidding me? What's
No,
wrong?
no Virginia kid. We actually are spread out California, North Carolina, and Jersey, and then we do have a Maryland kid in 27, and but we will have a Virginia kid from Richmond coming the following year. So
What you and I were joking when we did the podcast. You had a bye week last week, and you were all over the doggone country, flying around like a crazy man,
yeah,
doing what you do. But that tells me you're not done yet. Um, and
no,
a lot of people would say that this marks the culmination of a
no,
rebuild, but I don't think you see it that way, do you?
no, no, I don't see it that way at all. I just think this is a start of something special. It's not something. This is not a culmination. It's a culmination from our seniors that they're graduating and what they put into the program. But we have higher aspirations than Patriot League, and we've been speaking that to recruits from here on out. We want to be going to the NCAA tournament. We want to be getting wins in the tournament. And I think that's the biggest goal. And like you said, I mean, I'm leaving recruiting today. As soon as we get off here, I'm headed out recruiting. So I think it's one of the things that we're trying to get better and better every year. We're not going to rest on our laurels. I can promise you that. And because the other teams in this league probably won't be doing it either. So, we want the road to the championship to always come through Annapolis.
Can you talk about you're in a different position now, the top seed for the first time in quite some time. Obviously, during your tenure,
Mhm.
you'd have the target on your back as you go into the tournament. Now it's a teams can just take their swings, knowing, hey, we got nothing to lose. If we take them out, it's we shock the world. If we lose, that's what's expected. How do you talk to the team about handling that type of situation?
Well, I think we've talked about March for a long time. Like since I first got here, we always talk about you don't want to be playing your best basketball in January and February. You want to be playing your best basketball in March. Winning teams win in March, and I think you have to be able to defend in March. We've been on that other end of that. We upset Holy Cross that one year, when they were the 1 seed and we were the 8 seed. So, I mean, it's still fresh in their mind as far as some of the seniors, as far as that. But I think really our goal is to continue to work day to day and try to get better. That was my message after the game is like, we can't get to the championship game until we have a good practice on Friday. And we can't get to Monday until we have a good practice on Saturday. And that's what we're going to focus on. I mean, we're focused on trying to get better, and we talked about every kid trying to get better throughout the whole process every single day. And I think that's been what's fueled this entire year, Bill. I think they have literally bought into the mindset of just win today.
Well, on that note, I mean, the fact that every single player in this program only cares about winning and not anything about their individual, stats, minutes, etc. I mean, in a civilian institution where there's NIL and people are trying to grab for themselves, this you might not be able to build that, but you've got a situation where, like you said, you keep bringing in talented players, and every time Juliana Almeida or Zoe Misach steps on the court, that might be less time for a player that's been in the program who they could feel, well, that's not right. I deserve first shot, but they don't see it that way. All they want to do is win.
Well, and I think, and I'm sure we're all competitive, like I had said earlier. I mean, I'm sure there's some kids that want to be playing a lot more minutes. And, I'm sure there's some armchair quarterbacks in the stands that wanted to be playing a few more minutes. But it's something that you have to be able to mitigate. It's one of the things in our recruiting we talk about that, look, if you want to start as a freshman, you can start as a freshman here. There's no question. But what you have to understand is that also means when you're a senior, you have to keep getting better. If you're not getting better, there's going to be someone coming in behind you. Um, and I think that's important for them to understand. And we try to talk about it up front. And, if there's questions, we say, hey, look, this is what we told you. This is not anything that's new. And I think we're really trying to find kids that want to win and that want to serve, that want to be part of something way bigger than them. And don't get me wrong, I know it's hard. It's really hard. I've always said the hardest thing for a coach is to be able to keep the bottom four players on your roster, or bottom five that aren't playing, engaged and part of the program. It's the hardest job you can do because it can turn into a cancer. It can really turn into a cancer. But we've been very fortunate with this group of kids that they bought into it, and when you got a kid like Kelly Giuliani sitting on the end of the bench right there, and Marin Laritas trying to her role changed a little bit, that are supporting and doing things like that, it makes your job a whole lot easier.
Great to see the tradition of Wags asking 4 questions instead of 3 carries over from football to basketball.
I love it.
Emmett Davis, do you have anything? All right, I'll ask one or two. You mentioned unselfish and connected, right away in your first statement. To me, that defines your captain, Marin Laritas. She doesn't play as much as she used to. She's not the leading scorer like she was maybe as a freshman, but you never see her hang her head. And to me, she's a definition of unselfish, and what she does both on and off the court is something to really be admired as well. Can you tell us a little bit about Marin and what she's meant to the program?
Yeah, that will get me a little emotional, Scott. I'm just going to tell you, it's she's such a phenomenal kid. She just wants to help this program. There were some adjustments for her, and we had a lot of conversations, and then it's been really interesting to watch her adapt to her role. And I could actually see it probably about second week in January, where she's just like, okay, this is what I've got, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to be the best I can at it. And from that point on, I think she's played some really good basketball here recently. She's turned some games around. She's picked up a different identity where she gets offensive rebounds and things like that. But she is the epitome of what this institution stands for. She serves others. The amount of time that she had to put in as a captain of captains has been unbelievable. Like, I did not realize how much she was having to do, how many people had to come to her. Then she had to maintain her grades. And then like even yesterday, she met with a Don. She's constantly doing these things. And she's constantly doing things that try to help other athletes, not just our athletes. And she's the one that, when I won't say who, but there was a player that I know was struggling with not playing a little bit. So she went and grabbed him and took him on a long run and had a conversation with him and said, look, you got to practice better. She's that type of kid. How many kids in today's world would be willing to do that and be willing to step out? There, she's the epitome, her and Kelly both, but Marin is an unbelievable human being, and she does it out of authenticity. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's who she is to her core. It's not some made up because she has to do it as a captain. And I could not be prouder of her and the things that she's overcome and the things that she's accomplished here. And she truly is a legend in Navy women's basketball.
For those who don't know, Marin is number one in the overall order of merit at the Naval Academy, which takes into account all the facets, not just academics, but also military and athletics as well. And then my second question is that the recruitment of Z, getting Zanai to come here, and then her instant success. How many more recruiting doors has that opened for you with a talent like her who stayed and is going to be a great 4-year player here? Has that opened up a lot more recruiting doors than previously?
Yeah, I always tell people it was an interesting recruitment with her. It's like I was shocked that she wasn't recruited higher. You watch that kid, and I'm like, this kid's going to be really good. And I remember we were up at Spooky Nook, and it was me and Jimmy Colleton and Lauren. I called everybody, and I said, we're all going to Spooky Nook. They're like, what? I said, all 4 of us. They're like, and I could tell they were like, what are you talking about? And so, no, we're all 4. We went up there and watched every one of her games, and we had a team in our league. I won't mention who they were. Look at us and like, don't you have something better to do? And I remember looking at her and said, well, we'll find out come next September. And so just the fact that she stayed, she and I had conversations, guys. We had people coming after her. We had agents trying to get her to go in the portal, and we sat in here and we had a really long conversation about what she wanted to do. And so I called my buddy, and Scott, I think I don't know if we talked about it, but I called the ACC, I called SEC guys. I'm like, okay, tell me what you're going to get her. And then we came up with a number. She and I came up with a number that we thought if she has to go. And she didn't get that number, and the other numbers were really good. And she's like, nah, I'm staying. And so being able to have her stay, to your point, Scott, I think was huge, because I think if she left, then I think there would have been other people coming after our kids, and there would have been, potential exodus coming out. And that is the with us recruiting and bringing in kids like Zoe, other people, they're going to come after them. But I'd rather shoot that high and see what happens. But being able to sit down and talk about player development and talk about Z's development. I mean, you've watched her since a freshman. I used to tell people she couldn't dribble or catch the damn ball as a freshman. She just did it out of working so hard and watching her now, it's unbelievable. And I think, you got a Jen Coleman behind me that got an All-American, and you say, hey, we've been able to develop that, and we've been able to develop this, and now you've got Zoe. Hopefully, we've got 3 straight Rookie of the Years coming. So to your point, it's massive. And when she stayed, it really opened a lot of doors for other people.
I also think it says a lot about the Naval Academy too, because really the last 3 instances that I know of, Rayon Lane, Asa Benini, Z, all
Yeah.
3 stayed.
Yeah.
All 3 stayed.
Well, I say it a lot, and you've heard me say it. I think it's the best opportunity in the country, and that's one of our things that we talked about with kids. I think it's the best opportunity in the country if you can do it. Not every kid can do it. It's not for every person. It's not for every family. But if you can do it and really look beyond that, and I think Z sees something down the road, and those are the kids that you got to be able to find. Because honestly, I can show you a spreadsheet. I call it the $1.6 million decision. And we put it out there. It's like if you get $100,000 in NIL money over 4 years, based on a 20-year career, what you're going to make coming out, we're $1.6 million ahead. So, and we hit it pretty hard on that.
Thank you. Got about 10 minutes left. We'll do one question each if you have one. Joe Miller.
Yeah, Coach, you've talked about it a lot from the perspective of getting better day to day. We've had that conversation a lot this season. When you look at the team as a whole, when you go back to October, November, what do you think this team has improved on the most throughout this season?
Definitely sharing the basketball. I think we've gone from what I would consider ball beggars to ball sharers. I think if you go back, I've said that the games that we've lost, Joe, this year have been really good learning lessons. We had that really tough streak where we had 3 games in 6 days, had to go to Radford, and probably not the best scheduling on my end where you're playing Saturday, Sunday, then drive 6 hours and play, and then come back and have a day prep. But during that stretch, we were able to show our kids where we call it ball beggars. They come running to the ball with their hands instead of keeping it spaced. And I think one of the things that we have found is that when we share the basketball, we're a better team and we get a lot more open shots. And if you go back and look at stats from our years past, our assist to turnover ratio, we're leading the league in assists right now. So I think that's where I would say we've gotten better. I think in the Patriot League, we've gotten better with our defensive rebounding, which has been huge key.
Thanks, sir. See you on Monday.
All right, see you Monday, buddy.
Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, how important was securing home court into the conference tournament for this team to achieve that and to do that and get to that point?
Well, I think, Scott, I think it's big. I will say this, we do play really well on the road. So we have been playing, our splits are pretty good on the road. So it's like, but I'll take that home court advantage. I think just being able to be here and being around you guys and families are able to come in and, you got your fans going to be here. Your surroundings are familiar and things like that. And I think it's big because now the other people have to travel. And, I think anytime you're having to travel and putting more miles on and can't prep as much, it makes it tough. So I just being here in Alumni, and I think being able to have this time now where we've been able to go for a whole week and practice in Alumni, then we're gonna get to practice 3 more days in Alumni. Then I think we're going to be able to get even more comfortable being here.
Have a good recruiting trip.
All right, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Tim Nolan.
Yeah, Tim, talking about how you continue to empower everybody on your bench 1 through 15. What is the key to keeping everyone engaged and feeling and knowing that they're an integral part of this team?
Well, I think a lot of that it falls on your assistants, Tim. I really do because, I try to get to each kid, but it's really hard for your head coaches. Even when I was an assistant, it's really hard for the head coach to get to all 15 kids, and game plan and recruit and things like that. I think, we spend a lot of time in here in our meetings. We meet every day, and we talk about, all right, what's the pulse? What are you hearing? Things like that. And a lot of times I don't have to act on it. And I think being a consistent message coming from your staff, and our staff is like, if our kids say, hey, we want to work out, our staff knows you have to be in the gym. And I think part of that camaraderie and what I would say doing the dirty work behind the scenes, not at practice and things like that, and the kids get more comfortable. But I think having a really good assistant group that trust each other, which this group has been, I love working with them. I think they can mitigate any little problems and they can talk through, hey, this is what Coach Taylor said. Like, if you practice really, really well, you get an opportunity. And you may get an earlier opportunity than someone else. If you're pouting and you're not, you won't get the same opportunity. And that's kind of what we've been able to keep telling our kids, if that makes sense to you.
Thank you.
Wags, who I will say, in fairness, made one statement and asked three questions, so he was not in violation of the rule.
Fair enough. I would agree with that.
But I have violated the rule in the past. This can be an oddball question. You're trying to do something that hasn't been done in terms of making the NCAA tournament, capturing the Patriot League tournament, since a group of players that I really remember well, Jade Geif, Audrey Bauer, Kara Pollinger, Alex Membreno, that group.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about having anyone for that group talk to your team, your current team, about what it takes to win a tournament title, to make that run, to get to the NCAAs?
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked to them specifically about the title. But what I will say, we brought Jade back here, Alex Membrano, a lot of people on that. I will tell you, Karen West Kane, Becky Vautier, Shelly O'Malley, the alumni are very engaged. I get text Ashley Pelzick, Adrian Mazer, those they're all connected to us. That's the one thing I think we've done a really good job of, Bill, is bringing alumni back into the fold. We had 20 some alumni at our Army game. 27 of them came back. Lori Reynolds, all of those guys. I can throw all these different names out that are connected to our kids, and they're reaching out, talking to our kids, and they talk to them about how to, what winning looks like and what overcoming adversity. So I think there's a prod that's coming back into Navy women's basketball, not just from our current group, but from the 80s to the 90s. And we built a connection with all of them. And we have an alumni newsletter that we send out to everybody. So I think specifically about winning a championship, no, but specifically about how to be a mid, how to win in life, how to win on the court, those things. And they're showing up at games all the time. So I think yes.
I'll close it out. Just if Navy is fortunate enough to win the quarterfinal and semifinal game, we will do this again on Friday to preview the championship game if Navy is fortunate enough to make it. And then one final question to close us out: How big was the Florida win, maybe to open your team's eyes about what's possible this year, or was it important at all?
No, I do think it was important. I think, Scott, to be able for our team to be able to play in that environment and get a win. I think it was one of those things where they're like, damn, we're pretty good. Like we can be really good. Like this guy's not lying to me, because we've been talking about, we think we got a chance here. We can do this. Florida come out and beat us by 30 or 40, which everybody, kind of expected. Then, I don't know, 30, 40, but 20, 25, whatever it may be, then I think they would have been kind of looking at me like, eh. But then I think that was the reality of, guys, we can be really good. But but we have to continue to work. This can't be the best moment of our season. And I think that's what's been the part of it. But I don't think we would be 16-2 without winning that game.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. Hope to see you on Monday night. Navy takes on AU or Boston in the Patriot League quarterfinals. Thanks, Coach.
Hey guys, thank everybody. I appreciate all the support through the years, not just this year when we're winning, but you guys have been a constant from 1 and 29 to now. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for all your support.